Hey, all, welcome to my channel. Today, I'm just going to talk about. I try not to talk about politics, but this is one of those things where it's kind of interesting because for me, uh, just like with football, basketball, baseball, like being a fantasy sports in that aspects, playing those. This is one of those things where it's like it's fantasy politics. You could be a GM, like fantasy. Again, fantasy politics, trying to see like, okay, who do you think will come out and win the nomination for the primaries for whatever the respective parties, and then who will win for the presidency, etc. Basically, so I don't want to say it excites me, but it's one of those things where like try to like pick it up, like try to gauge into it a little bit. Um, it's interesting. Nikki Haley, of course, announcing that she's running officially, so she'll be the first true person right now that's actually running against Donald Trump. No one else has announced, of course, on the GPU side of things, so we'll wait and see. On the Democratic side, so far it's going to be Biden. Honestly, he hasn't fully outright said it, but it looks like it's going to be. Ideally, it'd be great if he could actually tell you by the end of this, month or end of March that if he is going to run or not. Because if he's not running, it gives another opportunity for quite a number of nominees to jump in place. Because honestly, for me personally, I don't think Biden should run. I don't think, depending on who he goes against in the not in the elections. If it's against Trump, I think he loses. If it's against DeSantis, I think he loses. If it's against, if DeSantis runs, if it's against quite a few people, he loses. Honestly, if it's against, let's say, Liz Cheney, I think he might win in that situation. If it's against Nikki Haley, possibly he could win as well too, possibly. But honestly, I think he shouldn't run. And if he doesn't run, Harris is going to try to run. She's not going to win it at all, outright. Forget about it. It's probably going to be Newsom or someone else outside of that. But in any case, on the Republican side, of course, like it's Trump, pure Trump, and Haley. The other possible candidates, like that were, Ron DeSantis, of course. I mean, he's still exploring. He's not really said it outright, but you could tell he's pretty much ready to do this. He's ready to not pretty much uh, officially say he's running. Same thing with Mike Pence. I think Pence will probably officially run as well too, even though he hasn't. But I think he's trying. I think he'll try to find and see where he's at. Honestly, I don't think he will. But if he does go, this will be very beneficial, I think, for both Nikki Haley, DeSantis, and the other person I'm going to say that I think should run, and who's also kind of in an exploratory aspect right now, is Tim Scott. I think Tim Scott, if he runs, I think he might be a better well, he'll definitely be a better candidate than DeSantis and Trump. But I think more of a case where like he might have the ability to essentially win that nomination, depending if Pence comes in play. If Pence and if Chris Christie jumps in as well too, it's a possibility that those two might help Tim Scott in the long term. Now we're thinking, oh yeah, well, why would that be? Because like it's got to be either DeSantis or Trump, because both of them, the Trump supporting side of things or Trump voters, will either vote Trump or DeSantis. I think some of them are now leaning. Those Trump voters are leaning towards DeSantis because of two aspects. One, Trump being a little bit older now, whereas DeSantis is much younger, more youthful, and it's one of those things where he doesn't go crazy on Twitter or such. I mean, he'll just use the news media, of course. Nikki Haley now is a different story. I think the fact that Nikki Haley coming on, it makes sort of sense. I mean, if this is what she did in 2016, yeah. If she never joined Trump's administration, then yeah. Or if she did, but then resigned immediately after 2016, then yeah, then she might seem a valid case. But in reality, this is the person that basically prior to 2016, after Obama's State of the Union in 2015 or 2015 2016, 2016, she pretty much attacked and blatantly called Donald Trump a racist and a bigot. Um, and it was one of those things where she thought, let's go after him, go after him basically, not thinking that Trump would actually win, but of course he won. And one of the things that Trump did, he nominated her as ambassador to the UN. And it was one of those things where people were like, wondering, like, wait, what? Why would she accept this? This is the same person that denounced him after he became the Republican nominee. She kind of was there supporting him a little bit, but not to the point of like not fully 100%. But once he became president, she's like, okay, I'll go in. And it was really surprising. I think that's more of a case where like it seems like she was an opportunist more than anything else. And I think that's what Nikki Haley is going to be seen as an opportunist, because the fact is like she had these shots. She'll do whatever it is to gain power, just like what McCarthy did in the the situation with the House for the Speaker role in the House. I think Haley will do whatever it is, and so that's why some people might not look into her, because it's one of those things where like, people might see the exact same thing in Haley as they saw in Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, it was definitely an opportunist. You could tell that even though she was qualified, she was definitely an opportunist. I mean, from being first lady to being a senator. I mean, you know full well she wanted to become president, so the one way to go about was being a senator. And like she basically, Moynihan basically, she kind of convinced Moynihan like you should retire, let me take your seat. Boom, she did. And of course, she ran in 2008. Of course, she lost and failed in the bid because of Obama, and same thing with 2016. Now, let's not forget, it's going to be interesting to see who some of the people that are going to be running on the Republican side and the primaries are going to be. It'd be great to see, because one of the things I like to look for is like the underdog or the surpriser. I mean, honestly, like for the past 30 years, in '92, Clinton. No one saw Clinton coming out of the Democratic primary. I mean, everyone thought Hart, but then the scandal kicked off, and then Clinton jumped up. He had the scandal, but he still got through it. And then at the same time, he beat out George Bush, H. Bush, by the way, Herbert. He beat him out. It was a surprise, and I don't think anyone foresaw that. I mean, everyone thought for sure if that was the case, Mario Cuomo should have ran instead of Clinton. But Cuomo knows that he was afraid that he would not be able. No one would be able to beat Bush, and lo and behold, Clinton did. It was the same thing in 2000, basically. George Walker Bush, George W. Honestly, I don't think anyone saw him beating out. First, getting the nomination for the Republican Party, and then two, um, beating out basically Al Gore. I mean, Al Gore had the momentum; he just lost it. And Bush knew what to do, and he won it. And then, of course, let's not forget 2008. It was pretty much the Hillary Clinton train. Everyone just got on the train station and let it go. It was going full steam ahead. No one foresaw that Obama was going to beat her. Everyone thought for sure it was always going to be Clinton, Clinton, Clinton. What happens? Obama beat her. And Obama, of course, beat out McCain, too. Which, because, of course, McCain was like the underdog in 2000. Now comes back as like, all right, now he's a clear forerunner. And Obama beat out McCain as well, too. So Obama became the clear runner of winning that presidency. And then 2016, of course, let's not forget Donald Trump, of course. I mean, like, everyone thought for sure Hillary Clinton, like, no one wanted to run against her except for Bernie. She ran, she won. Of course, she lost to Donald Trump. No one thought for sure Donald Trump would come out for the Republican nomination. I mean, honestly, everyone thought it was either going to be Jeb Bush or, Marco Rubio. Rubio, of course, sucked. Not sucked, but more of like he just crumbled under the debates. Christie just pretty much embarrassed him. And then, of course, Jeb Bush, Trump knew was fully aware. The way to beat out Bush, just attack him head on. Just keep attacking him head on. Bush, being the high man that he was, chose not to go down that level, and because not going down that level, he lost. If Jeb Bush were to run now, he's kind of a little older now. I think he would not get it anyways, because I think people are tired of a Bush at this point, to be quite honest. DeSantis now it's between Trump and DeSantis. They're the clear forerunners between the two. And considering you got the Trump supporters or the far right voters, mostly focusing on the DeSantis mostly, and Trump, Nikki Haley, probably not going to do it. Now, if I'm Nikki Haley, I basically take the playbook that Trump did. Just go by the same exact playbook. Attack DeSantis head on. He might be the clear forerunner, but you attack DeSantis head on. Trump might just go right after him as well too. But honestly, if I'm Haley, just go on to DeSantis head on. Do not attack Trump. You can't attack Trump because Trump can come right back at her. Basically, like, well, you weren't there. You were under my administration, etc., etc., etc. She had the shots. She never did. Same thing with Pence. Pence would never be able to do that. But if Pence comes on board, Trump will definitely focus everything onto Pence, to the point of like they might go at each other. And so if Haley takes DeSantis out, she gains that credibility. she gains that second look. I'm like, oh, okay, she might be worth it. But now the other aspect that I'm thinking of is like if it's Tim Scott comes on board, and you've got Nikki Haley with DeSantis and Trump. If I'm Tim Scott, the first person I go after, let Haley go after DeSantis. If I'm Scott, I go right after Bush. Just go right after Bush. If Bush basically kind of attacks him based on color, I think you got him at that point. I think you got a lot of Republicans then looking at Scott. I was like, you know what? We want Scott instead of Trump. Haley going after DeSantis takes him out. Scott, it might just come down to between Scott and Nikki Haley, and at that point, if it's between those two, Scott wins it outright. I think. Now Liz Cheney, it makes more sense for Liz. It makes more sense for Nikki Haley and Tim Scott if Liz Cheney comes on board because Cheney could go right after Trump. She'll go right after Trump. Trump and her will go right at each other. Scott can just come in on the flank, take out Trump, and then boom. And at that point, Liz Cheney will never win it anyways. It won't matter, honestly. I mean, the other factor is like, or not the other factor, but that the other two of the other potentials are, of course, Asa Hutchinson and Larry Hogan, the same Republican governors, in a ways. I mean, Hutchinson not as much as Hogan. At least Hogan was sane. Hogan was definitely sane. Honestly, if I'm Hogan, if I'm a Republican, if I had a choice, I would go with either Hogan or Scott. Hutchinson, I mean, he's not bad, but I don't know. It's honestly, I don't know. The one thing is like at least Hutchinson basically went against. Not I don't want to say went against Trump, but denounced Trump, put the sole responsibility of the January 6th attacks on Trump. So it's one of those things where like he seemed like he was like another Liz Cheney. I don't think he'll win it outright, but who knows? Hogan I think does can do really well if all these plays comes into play. But it's a matter of like who basically officially says that they're running. Right now we know for a fact that's Trump and Haley. Most likely Pence is going to run, and most definitely DeSantis is going to run. The question is will Pompeo run? He's kind of put in there. Honestly, Pompeo's just going to be gone at this point anyway. Honestly, Trump, all he has to do is like, you guys were under my administration. Look at this. Now you're trying to run. If they attack Trump, they can't because they have nothing that can validate them or back them up because Trump can just go back and like, you had shots, you never did. And what are they going to say? We were afraid of it. It's like, and then he always has to say, well, if you're afraid of me, how are you going to handle other foreign leaders, basically? At that point, if you're going to be afraid of me, you're going to be afraid of them, and then you just crumble. So, like, forget that. Christie, if he runs, I don't think it's a case where it'll probably be the exact same thing. He'll probably attack another person. He'll probably, honestly, if Christie does run, I think he goes out. He's going to probably go right after Nikki Haley. I think he's going to go right after Nikki Haley. DeSantis, he knows he doesn't have a shot with, but at least he'll have a shot at taking out Nikki Haley. Can he take out Tim Scott? I really doubt it. Tim Scott seems like a more energetic person, I think. And the fact is like I think Nikki Haley, she's going with the next generation, meaning the Gen Xers and the millennials. She's pushing herself into that, and by doing that, she's also bringing in DeSantis and Tim Scott as well too at the same time. So honestly, it's a double-edged sword for her. But at the same time, if she goes after DeSantis, she could go right after DeSantis instead of Trump, and then go figure it out from there at that point. But that's pretty much my take on it right now. Like I said, this is early on. It'd be interesting to see if some of the stuff that I say plays out. If it does, hey, maybe I should become a political strategist. Anyways, but let me know what you guys think. It's up to you. Please leave your comments. Leave a comment. I do read my comments. I try to answer them as the best of my abilities. Granted, I might joke around. I mean, I'll be upfront. I'm not going to be serious. I'm not a serious person. I take things very lightly. But just again, go ahead. Please leave a comment and please subscribe as well too. I don't know how to do this because I'm using OBS and it doesn't always work entirely. So please subscribe. More subscribers, the better. I could live stream from my phone at that point. It'd be great to live stream from my phone versus having to wait sometime. And like honestly, I would have loved to live stream from yesterday because I went to an actual comedy show yesterday at the Improv. Pretty funny for this certain individual that was on Valentine's Day, doing stand-up comic, and it was pretty interesting, pretty funny in a ways. As a guy, I found it somewhat funny, honestly. But in any case, with it, I'll leave it at that. Again, comment, subscribe, let me know your thoughts. Who do you think will play out? If you think I'm off base, I'm off base. Let me know. Basically, I'll gladly, like I won't defend it. I'll try to defend it. Maybe I might be wrong. Like I said, I will respect. I respect opinions of people what they put out there. Basically, so I'm not going to say anything else with that. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and unrehearsed. Until next time.